سنقدم اليوم الجزء الثاني من ندوة المكتبة كمحرك للتغيير. الجزء الثاني سيكون عندنا ضيفتين، السيدة ماري أوسترغارد من الدنمارك والسيدة أمرجيت من سنغافورة. دعوني أقدم لكم السيدة ماري. هي الرئيسة التنفيذية للمكتبات العامة 19 في آرهوس الدنمارك. عملت كرئيسة قسم الشراكة والتواصل المجتمعي في مكتبة دوك 1 لمدة عامين. كانت جزءا من الشبكة الدولية للمكتبات المبتكرة في مبادرة مؤسسة بيل وميليندا غيتس لإعداد قادة مكتبات المستقبل. تحدثت في أكثر من 15 مؤتمرا دوليا خلال ال5 سنوات الماضية، وكان آخرها في المكتبة البريطانية هذا العام. ستتحدث السيدة ماري لتسلط الضوء على الأهداف الاستراتيجية لمكتبات آرهوس ورؤيتهم حول كيف يجب أن تكون المكتبات، ومن تجربة مكتبة دوك 1 التي تم افتتاحها في العام 2015، وكيف أنهم أشركوا الرواد والشركاء في وضع الاستراتيجية التي ستدفع للتغيير وتطور عمل المكتبة. ورقتها لهذا اليوم ستكون تحت عنوان التواصل المجتمعي وبناء الشركات كمحرك للتغيير. تفضل.
Is this on? Yeah. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. So I just want to say this is a great pleasure to be here with all of you. I really think that... Can you turn this off? I'm wearing this, yeah. So I think this conference is the very essence of what change is about, the possibility to come together and exchange ideas, and the fact that we as libraries are not competing. So for us, it's important to share ideas and take ideas from each other and build on them. And this is what conferences like this can be. I just want to also thank the Foundation for the invitation for coming here. And although Mrs. Valentina Kosaisia is not here, I want to acknowledge her strong introduction this morning about how change needs to be done in libraries. I also want to give my regards to Mr. Khaleb and Mohamed for spending generous time with us yesterday. And last but not least, I especially want to thank Mrs. Afnan, not only for being such a brilliant organizer and host, but also for honoring me with her friendship. So thank you, Afnan. Right. I call this community engagement and partnerships drivers for change, because what we experienced in Aarhus is that these two components have been the drivers for all the stuff that we've been doing that has changed the most the image of the library, but also our own minds. Just a few things about Denmark and Aarhus. Aarhus is the city I come from. Denmark is a very small country. We are only 5 million in total. It's up here in the north of Europe, and Denmark is the second biggest city Aarhus is the second biggest city in Denmark. We're only 300,000 people in Aarhus. So in Denmark, we have in total 450 fixed library service points. In Aarhus, we have 19. Those are the ones that I'm in charge of. Aarhus is a very vibrant, young city. We have a lot of educations in Aarhus. We are the cultural capital of Europe this year, so a lot of cultural activities is going on. So the good thing about, one of the good things about the city is that it's very closely connected. So in that sense, it is very easy to approach different organizations, different educations, etc., and cooperate. That's one of the strong issues about the city. And one of the things that we should always look for when we're trying to engage the community into our libraries. So another thing that might be valuable for you to know is that we have a very high internet penetration. And my presentation today is not going to be about digital digital services or how we deal with that, because Mr. Rاميرو already covered that very well, and we're very much on the same lines. But maybe it's important to know still, because it is the context of the things that we're doing. We know that everybody in our community, in our society, have access to computers, higher internet penetration. All the dealings with the municipality is online. You don't get paper letters anymore. You get digital letters in your e-box. So we have a very different way of communicating with our citizens in the public. The libraries in Denmark are all financed by the municipalities. We have a library legislation, a national library legislation, that sets the rules for what a library should be, and also that says that every municipality must provide a public library sufficient to the community needs. So that's a very strong basis for us to work on. Of course, you can always interpret what is sufficient needs, and a lot of municipalities interpret that differently. Thank you. But for us, that means these 19 libraries, and it means that in our city, libraries are very highly regarded as a tool for the city to develop the community. We have the library usage. I'm sorry, it's not very clear here. The library usage in Denmark is approximately 70% of the population. So 70% of the people in Denmark regularly go to the library and uses their services. But we still want to reach the other 30, and we know there is a lot to be done in that area. Just to give you an idea of where we're situated, this is a picture this is Aarhus, and this is the construction that is going on in Aarhus. This is before our new library was built in 2015. This is where we're building. So the library this is the construction site. It's an idea of the city wanting to move down to the water, this is the waterfront, and creating a whole new part of the city. So the library became a player in the city's strategy for how the city should develop, which was very important for us. Because we believe we should be that player in the strategy, and the city also believed that. So we were situated here in one of the most beautiful places in Aarhus, because everybody believed that if you put a library here in a new part of the city that's being developed, you will attract people immediately, even before the rest is even finished. And that is also what happened. So I think that one of the things that libraries need to be much better at is to have conversations on a city council level, on a state level, in order to show what is the actual powers and muscles that we have as libraries, because we are the close connection to the community that votes for these people. And fortunately, that is something that was acknowledged in Aarhus. So this is how the future looked. Part of the project of building the new library was to open a stream that went down here. This is the library. We have underneath a big parking ground, an automatic parking space with 1,000 places for cars. And then we have 2 new harbor squares, also open to the public, so that this all inner area of the harbor becomes a new public space for everybody, not just for people who can afford expensive apartments, but for everybody to come and enjoy being part of the water. So the vision for Dock 1 is this: a space for cooperation, a place for dialogue, open informal learning, and a unique place for children and families. And as you can see here, there is no mention of books, there is no mention of technology. We have books, we have technology, but we believe that when you provide a vision, you need to focus on the most important thing: people. People are the only thing that will continue to be here. People is what we need to focus on when we develop services, and all the rest are just tools. Different knowledge formats or tools in order to help people expand their own life. So he said, well, the library in our country, I don't know enough about Jordan yet to know if it's the same here, but in our country, the library is the only place where we meet across gender, age, political belief, religion, etc., in a non-commercial space. This is very important for us. We wanted to enforce that idea, and this is what also happens out in the city squares. So the library, the architecture and the decorating of the library is meant to resemble a public space in the city with a roof on it. So in order to make people merge and mingle between each other, there are no walls, it's very open, you're always together with other people that you might not know, but maybe you'll come to know them. Just a few facts about Dock 1, and I call it Dock 1 because that's the name of the building. It is the main library of Aarhus. So we took 10 years building all of this. It's, oh sorry, this is in square feet. It's 30,000 square meters, and the library takes up 19,000 square meters of that. We opened in 2015. Our opening hours are from 8 to 10, Monday to Friday. In Denmark, the weekend is, the days off are Saturday and Sunday, so those are the ones where we don't work that much. So Monday to Friday, 8 to 10, and Saturday and Sunday is from 10 to 4. But what we do is that we have unstaffed hours between 7 and 10 in the evening. So unstaffed hours means that the library is open, the doors are open, but we don't have staff on the floor. So you can come in, you can use the library, but you cannot get professional help. So you cannot get staff help. So people use the library in the evenings as a living room of the city. They use it, they can borrow books, they can hand in books, because that is all self-service in Aarhus. So they can do all these transactions without staff on the floor. So that increases the amount of time that the public can use the library, and it also connects them closer to the library. We have around 3,800 visitors a day. That's approximately 1 million a year, which is twice the amount of visitors we had in the old library. So we can see that we reached out to users that we didn't know before in the library, from transforming this library into something else. This is a picture of Dock 1. So I want to talk a little to you about how we're changing mindsets. We want to focus, and we continue to focus on this movement from we're looking at the library as a space for collection into looking at the library as a space for people. It's a very important move in all our minds, because that determines how we develop services and how we decorate our spaces and what we provide space for. We are focusing continuously on co-creation and user involvement in all the things that we do. It's part of how we develop the new services and how we develop the physical library. And we believe that the community is the organizing factor of what it is that we do in the library. Those are very important things for us to bear in mind. This is not... So, do you need to point this way? Excuse me? Do I point this way when I click? Well. So when we're looking at libraries, you could say that we could consider libraries as both a place, a space, and a relation. And this last part I'll come back to. So we need to look at the library as much, much more than just a building with a collection inside. It's a place maker. It's something that changes the surroundings of where the library is placed. Like we did, like a lot of libraries around the world, you can see when a library is placed in the community, the surrounding area changes. So we need to acknowledge that. It's a space, it's a public space where people come in and do their own things, and it's a place for relations. It's a place where we perform relations with the public, but also where they perform relations with each other or with knowledge that they didn't already have. So we were looking at how and why would we develop such a new large library when there is so much available online. So we wanted to focus on what can only be experienced at the library. What is it that will take you down to the physical library and not just use the internet to get ebooks or get digital library services? That is what we need to focus on. So we wanted to look at this library space as a media in itself. a thing that can actually provide knowledge, just like a book or a CD or whatever. We wanted to look at how we could move from earlier on thinking about meeting information into meeting people, because people are knowledge. We wanted to work on experimenting, creating a space that was capable of experimenting with what we're doing, but also letting people experimenting on what it is that they're doing in a library. And to look at the people coming in as resource people, resource person, not just users or visitors, but people with resources that they can leave in the library and share with others. A lot of different things, but that whole discussion was important for us to have in order to make sure that we created the library that we wanted to continue to work with, and that made sense for the users. In Denmark, not just Aarhus, but whole Denmark, we are working very much on this new model. It was created by some scientists at the Library School of Information, and it is talking about what is it that a library of the future must contain. This is something that all Danish libraries are working on, so it's not just us. And they say that, well, for a library to actually be continue to be an important place in the city, you need to look at 4 different things. You need to contain an inspiration space, a learning space, meeting space, and a performative space. And I'm not talking about physical spaces. It's also mind spaces or activities that provides inspirational learning or meeting facilities or performative possibilities. So it's not just physical spaces. So the inspiration space is where you come to experience things, where you see things you didn't know you were interested in, where the serendipity of the physical space, that is the inspiration. You need to provide that for people. The learning space is probably something that we have all done for many years. This is where libraries are traditionally very focused and very good. Different types of learning. How can we become this amazing learning space where people want to come and develop their own lives? The meeting space. The library as meeting space is something, I think Afnan talked about it earlier, and it's something that we have been working on for the past, I think, 20 years as well. That the library needs to be a place where people want to go to meet up with others or to meet someone they don't know. Or people say, oh, I don't know what to do today, should we just go to the library and see what happens? And then they get engaged in whatever is on in the library. But how can we provide sensible meetings for people? The last part, the performative space, is something that just came strongly on in Denmark within the past 10 years. The Makerspace Movement is part of that. It is the place where people can come and do their own things, where they come and, for instance, have a writer's class and perform their own writing to others and get feedback. It's where you can come and do yoga with your family. It's where you come and create. You can learn through creating many different things, but where the users get the opportunity to perform. And these 4 things are something that we need to always remember to have as part of our libraries. And we can see that the successful libraries around the world are the ones that are capable of containing all of those 4. And we keep reminding ourselves and testing our spaces to see if we continue to cover all these 4 things. So both Dock 1, the main library, and the 18 branches in Aarhus are built upon this idea, the 4-room model, and also this, the library, the mashup library, the library as community center. For us, the library is a physical space where we put a lot of different activities in, or partners put a lot of different activities in, to support the user needs. So you can have job corner or makerspaces or counseling or startups in the library. It's not necessarily us that does it. It may be some of our partners that come in and do the different services. This is what we want to be, and this is how we should construct our spaces in the physical library. So you can say that we're changing the perspective on looking at traditionally libraries were about transaction, handing and getting back books, into being about relations. about makerspaces, innovation, play, new formats of debate. How can we get into relations with each other? It's a very different way of looking at what we should do and what our competences are. Someone earlier asked a very important question about staff. And of course, that is something that we've needed to look at as well. So these are actually just some of the titles that our staff has. We have library transformers, people who are engaged in constantly looking at the transformation gaming. Playmakers. Play is an enormously important part of our library. User involvement designers, people who train users in doing human-centered design thinking. Program editor, someone who edits the whole programming that we're doing throughout the year. Many, many different things. And we have many different competences at the library. We don't only have librarians. I'm not a librarian. We have many different, we have teachers, pedagogues, we have different academic educations, journalists, and librarians, of course, as well. Because we need to be able to support different things. And in order to do that, we're looking very strongly at partnerships. Rاميرو, you were talking about partnerships as well. It's been something that we've been working heavily on. And I can only urge you to do the same. It has given us so much innovation that we couldn't have done ourselves. Again, we've been moving from looking at short-term partnerships with a distance, something about sponsorship, or how can we get someone in to do one thing. And then we're moving up to this where we're looking at both interaction and long-term relationships around all the different things that we're doing. So how can we get them closer related to everything that we're doing in the library? So we're moving in a path where we used to, in the old days, the library used to have the ownership of the space, the ownership of the services. And now we're moving in this direction where our partners are owning the space as well with us, are owning the services. So and we actually mean this very seriously. So we do have partners who come in and they do services in library premises that we're not involved in at all. We have 3 levels of partnerships. We have a strategic level. That would be me going to, for instance, the School of Architecture and saying, should we perform partnerships? And then we can figure out what are the different activities and programs that we'll do around it. That it will always be the leadership involved in that. Then we have the program-based. So that could be one of my staff saying, well, we want to show documentaries in the library and have debates. We want to go out and partner with a cinema, and they come in and they show their films and we create debates. That, I will not be involved in that. They will do that and they will perform this, and it's based on specific programs that's going on. And then we have what we call network-based, which are these little relationships that everybody has with someone that might be able to bring something in, and maybe we could do a service here. So the most important thing to stress here is that everybody in the staff, everybody, needs to be able to go out and perform partnerships. I don't need to be involved. They're capable of doing it, and the personal relationship matters. So they need to be able to take care of that. We have around 140 programs a month, and about 60% of those are carried out by partners or with partners. So you can see it's a big part of our programming. Of course, we need to look at why are we doing these partnerships. So these are the things that we always look at when we're thinking about new partnerships. This is something our staff also need to look at. Is it providing a new service or better service? Is it giving us new competences? That is also a reason for partnership. Is it PR and relation building? Is it to pursue a strategical goal or a political one? Or is it actually giving us more money? Those are the reasons to perform partnerships. And these are just the arenas that we've chosen to perform partnerships within, but yours could be totally different. It depends on what it is that we want to enhance in your community and in your library. So I was saying something about user involvement and design thinking being part of our identity. Again, we're moving from where the library has the ownership into where the citizen is having the ownership. So now we have the partners and also the citizen taking ownership of the library spaces. This is where we want to go. Yep. We traditionally in Denmark, our citizen involvement have been quite boring, to be honest. It's been someone like me standing here telling you something, and that was it. Very formal, nothing to do with democracy. So what we are moving towards and is trying to do is now to get the citizens to cooperate into what it is that needs to be developed, to co-produce and co-create. So there is this great theory from 1969, it's very old, about the movement in involvement. So traditionally we have been down here where it was all about informing and consulting the public, and we want to move up here, and right now we're here where we delegate power to the citizens. Even our media budget, we delegate some of the media budget to the citizens, saying, now you can choose how to use this money, what kind of collection or what kind of materials or services do you want us to go out and buy or create? But also partnerships with the citizens. We have been very fortunate to go into a partnership with Chicago Public Libraries and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And so the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation supported our work on creating a design thinking manual for libraries. So it's available online so everybody can go in and use it. And it's giving you different tools if you want to work on how to be more user-oriented in the way you develop your services or your spaces. This will provide you with different tools and also different tools to develop your own critical thinking and creative capabilities in the way you're working in your own organization. This is something that we're working on organizational-wise, so every member of staff needs to be able to use these different tools in what they're doing, and every project that we're doing needs to focus on that. So the way we look at it, which is also inspired by the design thinking method, is that we start out with a vision. What is it? Then we go out and look at what have other people done? What are the good experiences here? Then we look at the vision again. Is it right? Is there something that we need to change? Did we see something unexpected? Then we do workshops with users, with partners, with staff, with non-users. Then we try to figure out, so what is the problem? Maybe we thought the problem was this, but through this, we found out the problem is here. Libraries, at least in Denmark, I don't know about here, have been quite famous for inventing new services that nobody needed, because we thought they needed it, but we forgot to ask the users. We had an idea that wasn't compatible what the need actually was. So we need to wait to define the real problem until we've been doing all this stuff. And then we prototype. A prototype is basically you build something in cardboard or just paint it on the wall or something that is not permanent, and then you test it with users. And then you look at it again and see, did that work? Maybe not. Maybe this worked, but you need to tweak it a bit. And then you try again. This is what we continuously do when we develop new services. This is a picture of prototyping, basically, where you're trying to, you can use whatever. You can draw, you can create, you can build in cardboard boxes. We're using it, we're right now developing a new branch library. So this is actually pictures from that, where we're using these methods to create the different spaces in the new library, discussing with users, discussing with partners. And we're testing in the present library. When we were doing the development for Doc 1, the new library, we set up a transformation space in the old library. We wanted to test all the new services and all the new furniture and all the new different things in the old library. So we set up a big space where we could test it. And we told people, this is what we're doing here, we're testing. So please come and help us test. So they would come, they would try, and they would sit in the chair saying, this is not too comfortable, it needs to be a bit higher, or I need arm rests on it, etc. And that way we could develop even the furniture into something that the users needed. So just to show you that I mean this seriously, this is a picture of the development of Doc 1, the blueprint, the layout. So this is what it looked like in the beginning when the architects handed it in, and this is how it changed. Just the footprint. changed throughout these interaction processes. So even the physical spaces of this new library changed because of this user involvement. And it should. I'm pointing in all different directions. Okay, so I just went because unfortunately has anyone been there? Okay, good. So that's why I took a lot of pictures with me, to show you what I mean when I say different formats and different spaces. So this is, for instance, what we call a meeting. This is a meeting between people doing something. This is also a meeting, crowds of people. Or this, reading circles, media interaction. We have screens all over the building, and we use them not only to promote what we're doing ourselves as digital posters, but also we have Instagram. Do you use Instagram? Yeah. So we have a hashtag called Doc1. So if you Instagram and hashtag Doc1, it shows up on the screens in the library. That way, the users, they tell their own stories. They tell their stories of how much fun this kid had when he says, "Mom, can we please come back tomorrow?" These are amazing stories that the users share with us. We couldn't tell these stories. That would be untrustworthy. So they can tell their own stories of what they did and how they're using Doc1. And it comes up in the library everywhere. It's quite a powerful tool. So if you dare do it, do it. Design thinking spaces, homework, big startup festivals, people who are just coming in to relax and be alone. Performances, makerspaces, activities, these are all from Doc1. Theater, music, all out in the open, because we want this to happen in the open spaces so that people will be surprised, that people will meet something that they didn't expect. We know that some people think that, oh, the music is too loud, or I didn't come from music, I wanted to go and read. So we decided that if we have music in the library, it can only last half an hour, because everybody can stand half an hour, except when it's bagpipes. Then we need to limit it to 15 minutes. But so we have all this out in the open because we want to unfold what the library is for everybody. Big debates we have in the middle of the library, political debates. This is actually it's a cute little story. It's in Denmark we have like maternity leave. We have paternity leave. So men can stay home with their kids, and a lot of men do. But some men came up to us and said, "Well, we're staying home with our kids, and we're a little bit bored, and we're not very good at finding a place to meet. So can we come to the library and meet?" And we said, "Yes, you can, but then you need to open this meeting up for other fathers with their kids." So they did that, and now every Thursday there is a group of fathers with kids coming in, and we provide coffee, and that's it. And they're doing all the things. They're inviting children's nurses in to do presentations, etc., and just playing together and being together. So this is one of the ways the public is taking ownership of the library, and at the same time creating a new services for others. Play, very, very important for us. We believe that in the family section, we have play, learning, and experience. Those are the three themes that needs to be focused on. Everything needs to be about this. And Mr. Rاميرو said it very well. Play, I think you said mind, body, and soul. And it's basically the same idea that play is something in itself, not just as a tool for learning. Play is what makes us be together in different ways. It creates our bodies, it develops our brains. We need to acknowledge that in the libraries as well. It is just a powerful development tool, just as reading in a book. And we need to develop. We want people to develop their own lives. So that demands a lot about the spaces. There's a lot of space for physical activities. So it's a way of working differently. We also have, out of the 19 libraries, 5 of them are in a public school. So we call them combined libraries, where the library is a combination of the public library and the school library, but we run it, and they also have school librarians. So that's also a great space to test the learning and play, how to do that on different age groups. So that's it's very useful for us because it makes the public library capable of being present in small urban cities where we wouldn't have money to otherwise have a library. So it helps keep the library open. Again, we have a big playground outside as well. Many different installations that kids can climb on, but the defining thing is that it needs to not just be for kids, it needs to be for the whole family. So we want adults to play with their kids. We want families to be able to come with different age groups and find pleasure in playing here. And we have in the library also art. In Denmark, when you build a new public space, you need to spend 1% of the construction money on art. This is one of it. This is a big bell, a gong. It's called the gong. And you can see there's a little hammer up here. And it's connected to the maternity ward in Århus. So when you give birth to a child in Århus, there is a button you can push, and it gives a gong in the library. So the whole library can hear a new citizen was born, and people they look up. There's always a lot of students sitting around here, and and they hear this gong, and they look up, and oh, okay, that was another one, and they feel the unity of being one more. So it's a beautiful community builder, actually. That was a lot of pictures and a lot of words. If you're interested, we actually did a book about Doc One and about the ideas and a lot more pictures. You can find it online if you're interested, so you can read more about it. So basically for us, the idea is that the library is a space where we together create meaning for each and one of us individually. So I think that's important to stress when we're looking at how it is that we're using our wonderful spaces, using our unique opportunity to connect with citizens and to be that driving force in the community that Ms. Valentina also was talking about. We totally agree. We need to do that. With us, the way we're working, the way we're constructing, Ramiero, you talked about how you're learning to say yes. We're learning to say, yes, we made a mistake, because we want to try out so much new stuff that we're bound to fail. We need to fail. This is how we learn, is making mistakes and daring to make mistakes. So everybody in the staff needs to try a little more than they actually dare, and they are celebrated for making mistakes, clever mistakes where you're trying and testing and knowing that you might fail. Not stupid mistakes where you're doing the same thing for the 10th time and you know it's not working. That's a stupid mistake. So the good mistakes are the ones where you dare try something new and you test it and you find out it didn't work. Why didn't it work? I need to learn from that. Those are clever mistakes. So we say, yes, we made a mistake, and try to build upon that. So that concludes my presentation. If you have more questions, I'll be here the rest of the day, and you're more than welcome to contact me. Unfortunately, I forgot all my business cards at home, so I put down the email for me down here, and there is also the website for Doc One on the screen. So thank you very much.
شكرا سيدة ماري على عرضك الجيد والجميل. اسمحوا لنا زملائنا وزميلاتنا نقدم لكم المحاضرة السيدة أمارجيت جيل. السيدة أمارجيت هي عضو في مجلس إدارة المكتبة الوطنية في سنغافورة لمسيرة امتدت لأكثر من 30 عاماً. تقلدت عدة مناصب قيادية في العمليات الفنية للمكتبة والتطوير الإداري. ساهمت في تحويل المكتبات وتطورها كمراكز مجتمعية وكمساحات نابضة بالحياة. كان لها بصمتها في عملية تحديث وتطوير المكتبة الوطنية وإدارة مكتبات المستقبل، ووضع الاستراتيجية الرئيسية حتى عام 2025 لكافة مكتبات سنغافورة العامة. أنشأت مركزاً للخدمات الاستشارية لمساعدة المكتبات في مجال بناء القدرات والتدريب والتخطيط الاستراتيجي، وما زالت نشيطة في مجال التطوع المتخصص لتصميم المكتبات ومشاريع التدريب في كل من غافنا، كوالالمبور، ميانمار، الهند، ونفذت بعض المشاريع في دبي وأبو ظبي. ستحدثنا اليوم عن التحديات التي تواجه المكتبات وتخصص علم الاجتماع علم المكتبات والتسارع الرقمي والعولمة، مما يفرض على مكتبي القرن ال21 إيجاد مهارات تواكب ذلك. وهنا ستتحدث عن هذه المهارات والكفاءات التي أصبحت ضرورية لبقاء مكتبتك بمستوى توقعات المستفيدين. عنوان ورقتي لهذا اليوم هي رسالة للمكتبيين. تفضل. You can start.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I start my presentation, as the other two presenters before me, I would like to thank the Showman Foundation for this invitation to share with you our experiences from Singapore, and also extend my gratitude to Ms. Valentina and her staff, who have been very kind and helpful to us during these days, leading up to this conference, as well as sharing with us the beautiful sights in Jordan. When this topic was given, we discussed and we decided the mission of librarians. I thought that was a very appropriate topic, because it is always important for us as librarians to stop and reflect and understand what is our purpose and our role as we work in our libraries. We have heard from the previous two speakers about how libraries have changed, how they have transformed lives, and really it is not the buildings, nor the books, nor the facilities that you have that actually results in that. It is really us, the librarians here, that make those changes. So while libraries are, the library is an engine for change, it is us, the librarians, who are the drivers of those change that takes place. So as this topic was given, as we decided on the topic, I decided to reflect on my time in the National Library in Singapore, mainly spent in public libraries, over 30 years, from the time I joined the library as a librarian to the time I progressed through management and then finally was the director of the Libraries of the Future. What I saw my mission as, and did it change through those years as a librarian and then moving on to management and finally as a director, looking at libraries of the future, like Doc that Marie has shared with us. And at the end, I decided that really the core mission has not really changed. We have always been there to, we have always been there as agent. Our mission has always been to improve lives, empower the communities, and also change the communities that we are there to serve. So what I realized is the core mission has not changed, but how we deliver that mission has changed over the years, right? So as the larger environment within which we exist, as the library world changes and the communities we serve change, then the way we deliver that mission of empowering and enriching the lives changes. So to start off, there are three things that I will cover in my presentation. One is the mission, of course, of librarians, and the second is, how do we know that a library is successful and the librarians are doing the job they are meant to do to actually achieve this mission? And thirdly, how do we build the capacity in the librarians to deliver this mission? And I think that is very important. So what I did to start with was to look at the mission statement of about over 30 libraries and come up with this word cloud, because I felt that the mission of librarians must be tied to the mission of the libraries, which is always tied to the bigger goal of the national development plans of your country. And not surprisingly, a lot of the things that the other two speakers have said about appear in the mission statement of many, many libraries. They are talking about community, they are talking about information, they are talking about connectedness, they are talking about enriching lives. But in the background, there is still literacy, there's still learning, there's still education. But community and connectedness and enrichment has come to the forefront, right? And this quote by David Langs, I think very appropriately tells us that it is us librarians who are going to make the difference. It is not having nice buildings, though nice buildings are good to have and important to have, and our libraries in Singapore are very well designed, but it is the librarians that will effect that change that we are looking for. And I can say this very confidently because I have seen libraries. I've traveled to many countries and I've seen many libraries. I have seen small libraries running out of a small little room that have been so successful in changing lives. And I've seen big libraries that are wonderfully designed but deserted and empty of users. So at the end of the day, it is the role that we play and how we function that brings these people in. To give you 2 examples or 3 examples of how we as librarians can change lives. I now reside in India, where my husband has been posted for 3 years. And in the south of India, in this town called Kerala, it's a village with farmers, fishermen. And they have a knowledge center there. The knowledge center has been running for some time, but the librarians decided to help the fishermen by developing an app. And that app actually tells the fishermen when is the best time to go out to fish, when they will get the best catch, where the best catch is, and also because Kerala is very close to the boundaries of Sri Lanka, alerts them when they are going to cross the international boundaries, right? So the fishermen in those countries, in that state, used to go out at night at 10 o'clock in the night and come back at about 8 a.m. in the morning or 9 a.m. Now, they go out about 2 a.m. and come back at 5 a.m. However, their income has increased and their productivity has increased. They are happy as a community. Their income levels have gone up. And the community is slowly feeling the effect of this change. Where the young used to leave the village to go out to the cities to work, they are now coming back because they enjoy using the digital way of supporting the fishermen's lifestyle. Not only that, the old fishermen have started to use smartphones because they too want to use the app. And so life there has changed. In another library that we visited, it's actually volunteer run in India. And what they did is the volunteer who runs the library is actually a nurse. So being true to her profession, she decided as part of the service, she would do simple blood pressure testing for the community. But what she found out was that high blood pressure was prevalent in the community that she served. And therefore, she built services to give health services to the community on what are the right foods to eat, how to address high blood pressure and all. So librarians who understand the communities they serve will be more effective in actually delivering a service that will result in changing and improving the lives of the community. So, as the other 2 speakers have said, the importance of understanding your community and who you're serving. In the Singapore National Library, in the public libraries, we have another institution that is called community centers. So we are always careful not to tread on their mission. And so we focus in Singapore on developing a community of readers and learners through a community of competent staff. Because we believe that without the competent staff, we will not be able to deliver what we are meant to do. But before we can actually go out and deliver and do these things, we have to understand the bigger changes that are taking place in the environment. What are the global trends at a high level? And in today's world, that is not a simple thing to understand. It is very complex. There are changes taking place on every front of our lives, driven mainly by technology. It's affecting education, it's affecting society, economy, and then eventually the demographics, the people that we are actually serving. But though it is complicated, it is very interrelated, and we try to group it out, we can say that what the role of the librarians is to support the new ways of thinking and learning through collaborative and creative opportunities. The same things that the other 2 speakers have said. We need to connect, provide equal access to everyone. And we need to build the technological capacity to improve the services and overcome this digital divide. like Rاميرو said, it is a divide, because I've seen communities where people have no access or no knowledge of how to use the digital. And in India, this is more pronounced than anywhere else. So, and you can see the effects of that. So from an international global trends level, we now bring it down to the library world. What is happening out there in the library world? IFLA, which is our governing body and the body that sets the direction for libraries, it's itself revisioning its role. I don't know if you know, but they have held regional conferences, regional workshops to find out what are the librarians out there, what do they want? I don't know if you have participated in it, but I know in Singapore we held one for the Asia region, and they are doing similar workshops in 5 other areas. So IFLA is taking a very active role in this as well, trying to find out what is it, where should we go, what are the competencies that we need, right? And they are going to publish this report, I think, sometime early next year, so do look out for it. These are 2 statements from the President as well as the SecGen, and you can see that they say we need a individual commitment. That is commitment from us, the librarians, right? So, and we together will create that change that we are looking for ourselves as well as for the communities that we serve. IFLA has also called upon all libraries to support the Sustainable Development Goals that have been put out by the United Nations for 2030. And that goes back to the point that Rامíro said, where libraries must support the national development goals of their own countries, for the governments to see that we are relevant and a valuable institution in the country, and therefore then fund us and provide us with the resources that we need to move forward. And there are 17 goals, and they cut across all areas, so it is not difficult for us to see how our services will definitely support one of these goals. And it's important to know these goals and know your national development goals so that you can go out and then do some advocacy work. So just to summarize, the services that we must provide from our libraries must be user-centric, customized, and also inclusive, using the latest technologies, right? Customization is very important because a lot of the services that you see are successful now are really customized. Look at Amazon, look at Uber. They're all customized to your needs, right? And their behaviors are changing, their expectations are changing. They want libraries to follow the similar path. Their time is very valuable. There are so many competing demands. So having that customized service, reaching out to what they want is important. As Marie said, libraries have this tendency to say, I know what the user wants and let me provide this. And then you wonder why the users don't come to you. So it's time for us to go out there and find out what they want and then customize the services that we provide to them. But how are the libraries going to achieve this? And what does a library where the librarians understand all this actually look like? So I'd like to give you an example of the Singapore Library as a case study, and I'm not saying it's the only library because obviously Dock 1 is one of them, and so is the Library of St. Antonio, and also the Jordan Library, as some of the examples have been shared. But let me just quickly go through the Singapore Library. Singapore is a very small country. I don't know if you know, it's just really a dot on the world map if you look at it. But our population is about 5.4 million, with Singaporeans making up about 3.2. And one day in our library looks something like this. We have 26 libraries of 3 different sizes. We divide them into regions, 5 regions in our little island. But on an average day, about 80,000 people visit all these 26 libraries. We have about 100,000 loans, which means annually we make up about 26 to 29 million loans. So our libraries are really very busy and very well loved by our communities. And of course, to attract them and to engage them, we run a fair number of programs as well. So some of the key features of a successful library would include things like this. It must be a responsive library system, As the world is changing, so must our libraries. So in Singapore, we started a long time ago in 1950, we computerized, then we had a different master plan for our building program, our digital libraries, our service roadmaps, and then finally, the one we have is our libraries of the future. So you cannot develop one master plan and stay with it for 50 years. The world is constantly changing, and as librarians, we must be responsive to the change. And that is why it is important for us to know what is happening at an international level and in the library world, so that we can then respond by providing the services that are required by the communities we serve. They must be inclusive and innovative, as have already been highlighted by the other speakers. In Singapore, we used to have services provided in 3 groups. We used to do children, youth, and adults, but we find that these groups are too broad, and so we have narrowed them down into 7 groups now, and in the 4 official languages of Singapore, and it's inclusive of everyone, and also done through the various channels. We are not really interested whether you prefer to read in digital or print. You read in whichever way you like, and we will provide that channel for you. So we start from 0. People usually say, how do you start from 0? Well, we are actually targeting the parents to, yes, to talk to your child and read to your child even when they're in the womb, and then when they come out, even though they are, as you cradle them in your arms, you do nursery rhymes with them or sing songs with them. So our service offering, we usually say, is from cradle to grave, right? Throughout your whole journey, the library will stay with you. And to develop those services, we have to be customer-centered. A lot of the things that we do, we engage the customers in focus groups, in listening to our customers. We co-create with them, as Marie said, when we develop new libraries, we actually invite them in to help with the planning. We do prototypes to gather feedback on the furniture they want, the books they need. So we do all the things that and Marie has mentioned just now. And at the end of every year, we have an appreciation for our customers. We have a big dinner, and we invite some of the customers, but anybody is free to come, and we give out awards to the customer who has given us the best suggestion, the customer who has facilitated our book clubs, and so that the customers know that we are appreciative of them, and it gives us a chance as management to even engage them. Of course, we use technology as an enabler, not only for us to provide services, so we have a digital app and, of course, all the IT services, but we also try to bridge the digital divide, starting with children and focusing a lot on seniors, because they are the ones who are not actually digital natives, and they need a lot more patience and time to adapt to these new technologies. We use data to understand the profile, because as librarians, we need to understand the profile of our communities. If we look at this chart, and this chart shows the profile of a place in Singapore called Sengkang against the whole of Singapore, we find that in certain areas, Sengkang has a high segment of certain areas, so 30 to 39. The population there is very high compared to the average Singapore population, and therefore our services should focus on these areas. So we look at data to help us determine what kind of services to provide out of the libraries. We look at our usage patterns of our loans and find out which age groups are we reaching out to well and which ones we have to work on further. So for example, we reach out to the young very well, but then we kind of lose them when they reach 15 and 18 and young adults. So there we have to work harder to develop more services to reach out to them. We also look at our inactive patrons, those that don't come to the library, because we want to be inclusive and we want to reach out to them. Marie said you were 70-30. I think in Singapore we are 2 in 1, so we are about 50%. And there's a whole population, another 50% that we have not addressed as, brought in as our active users yet. We do a lot of advocacy, which Ramiro's spoke about, which is very important because it creates an awareness of the value of libraries on the work we do. Librarians are very good at working very hard, but saying very little about what they do. And in today's world, this will not help us because resources will be given to the other areas if we don't go out and market and speak up for ourselves. That is an index, just like in San Antonio. We compare to other government departments in Singapore, and in 2015 we were 6th, but in 2017, the latest one, we are 1st. So we put in our effort, we understand these studies, and then we work to improving them. The one on the right is actually one done internally with our customers to see how satisfied they are with us. And over the years, they have given us different feedback. There has been feedback on our catalog, which we have then worked to improve, feedback on our collections that we then focus on. So this gives us valuable information onto what our customers want and what we need to do as librarians to address these things. Of course, we use the media as a way to showcase and increase our visibility, and partnerships, which I think no library can do without now. There is so much for us to do, and our resources are shrinking. Some libraries may be increasing in budgets, but I'm not sure whether in manpower they are increasing. So partnerships is an important way to address this. It is also because we need a lot of different skill set and competencies to go out there. And one librarian cannot have all of them. But working with partners, together we can achieve a lot. In Singapore, we have many partners that cut across all our areas, and they help us develop our spaces. They help us to develop the unreached. They do signature programs for us, and we have a large volunteer base. But without the partners, if you take away how they've helped us, all you're left with is basic programming at the library. And therefore, one of the competencies you will see that librarians need is to actually know how to go out and build these partnerships, how to network with the community, how to network with organizations, because it doesn't come naturally to us, I think, as a librarian. Most of us are so busy just doing. The soft skills that we need to go out there is something that we need to develop over time. Because otherwise, from the whole range of services you could have provided, you end up providing only basics programming at your libraries. Our volunteer base is very huge. We have about 5,000 active volunteers, and that is mainly because in Singapore, our population is decreasing, and with that decrease, our manpower decreases as well. So every year, between 1 to 5% we have a 1 to 5% manpower cut over the next 5 years. We are in the 3rd year of that cut now. So for the next 2 years, we will be reducing in manpower. So the only way we can do is to use volunteers and partners. So this is another skill our staff had to learn, how to engage volunteers, how to manage them, how to keep them and sustain them over a longer period of time with us. Some of the programs that are run by our volunteers, a Kids Read program, which is in the 12th year, is a program that reaches out to the low-income families. We train a whole pool of volunteers, and every week they go out and they read to these volunteers and do reading activities with them. It's a purely volunteer-run activity, only facilitated by us through training. We have Deliver Me program is one where we work with our taxi drivers to deliver books to the homebound. Our library at Chinatown, which was not funded by the government, is fully supported by partners as well. The landlord gave us the space and fitted it out, and we found another partner to come in and pay the operational cost. So partnerships and volunteers together help us do more than we can with the limited resources that we have. So if our librarians are competent, we understand our mission, then the library that we would have would be one that is responsive, is focused on our customers, we are inclusive, we reach out to all segments of our society. We would use technology as an enabler, and we would of course use data and understand that what the data is telling us, and then develop our services accordingly. We would go out and advocate, and we would build partnerships and a volunteer base. The question is, how do we get there to do all these things, right? In Singapore, this is really the question, right? We all understand that the competencies our staff have and the capacity they have is the only way we can drive and grow our organizations. But how do we do that, right? We need future-ready staff with the right skill set. In Singapore, when you join the public library system, you are not required to have a library degree. You come in from any discipline because we believe that with the range of services we provide, any discipline will be of use to us. But over the years that you're with us, they can either get a sponsorship or they can go out on their own and do a master's in library science. They come in with a basic degree from any area and then go out and do their master's at some point in time. Though this is now being questioned as to whether or not they really do need to go out and do a master's in information science. So that's still on the table being discussed. So looking at all that we have to do and the variety that is encompassed in there, and if you look at the SDGs, it covers almost every area of life that affects us. How do we equip our staff to go out and do those things? We believe there are maybe 4 main competencies areas in which they need to develop. They need to develop soft skills. Soft skills are key in terms of getting partnerships, volunteers, as well as engaging your customers, improving your customer experience in the library, providing that customer service that will keep that user coming back to your library. So soft skills are an increasingly important role for competency that librarians must develop over time. Professional skills, of course, we've always had that, but with the world changing and the technological advancements, we need to develop some of these professional skills along with that. Leadership skills are needed at every level, no matter where you are in the library service. Your role is different, but at each level or each position you hold, there is still a leadership role that you must play. How do you work with teams? How do you handle projects? How do you motivate the staff that work with you? So these are leadership skills that are required across every employee that you have. And technical skills. Of course, technical skills is something that we are always familiar with. Cataloging, processing, reference skills. But then there are new things that are coming up because of the changes and the advancements in technology. And these are some of the skills that have been put forward as the skills required by the 21st century librarian. Under professional skills, you need content curation. As your services become more customized, personalized, your staff need to understand what is the content they have. How can they curate that content to meet the user's needs? There's so much information out there, like I think Rاميرو and Marie, one of them said, right? But which is the right information? How do you bring it together? How do you then present it to your users? So that is a skill that staff need to do. Program development. Programs that libraries are giving are changing. Makerspaces are coming out in more and more. Increasingly, libraries are going that way. You want to develop creativity. You want to change the mindset of your users to be innovative. So the programs that you do must also be creative and innovative. But how do you do that as librarians? So that's another area that you need to develop, and which is very closely, of course, tied to your service development and management. And of course, you need partnership development because you can't do it alone. That's a fact, right? You need the soft skills. You need to go out and advocate, because only if you advocate will people want to come to your libraries and volunteer. Only if you advocate will people want to come to your libraries and partner you. And only if you go out and advocate will your users know what services you have and come and make use of your libraries. And of course, engagement skills and facilitation skills as well. In technical skills, you need to understand how to use data, and that's not something all librarians know. I know in the Singapore public libraries, we are spending a lot of time to get staff to use data to understand and interpret it in the charts that we showed you, and then tell them how this then translates to development of services and development of programs. And so that is another area that we need to understand, or at least work with partners who can then help us understand. Libraries are going into virtual reality. We visited some libraries in Melbourne, and they are starting services there to expose their users to virtual reality, artificial intelligence. So things are changing in out there. As also has been mentioned, operational efficiency. We can't spend so much time on our operations. We need to find better, faster ways so that we can do all the other things needed. In Singapore, we have gone self-service in a big way at our libraries. You will be surprised to know, but most, and I don't know whether it has gone to dog, but we have removed counters in our libraries. We get the staff to walk the shop floors. There is no counter for them to sit behind and wait for the user to come to you. So you don't sit and wait, you walk and talk. So you get out there and you talk to them. So if you go in, there is no counter. It was a big change for the staff because they didn't have that engagement skills to go out there and engage the users. But over time, they're slowly developing it. So operationally, we are also changing. And then, of course, library planning. I think Marie has covered a lot about that already. The spaces that you have to change. They cannot be the spaces of the past. So you need to develop some skills in terms of library planning. How do you make these spaces flexible and adaptable to the things that you need to do? You will not get funds all the time to renovate your libraries. So when you design your spaces, make them flexible so that you can change the configuration easily without needing more funds. Of course, leadership and management, change management, that's a big one. Because if you are the agents of change and you need to know how to manage that change. Not only out there for the services that you will provide, but also for the staff that you will lead. And of course, building teams. So these are some of the skills that have been put forward as 21st century skills for the librarian. And the whole capacity building framework would, of course, take the 4 key areas, and our staff will have to continuously develop from a foundation level to an intermediate to an advanced level in different areas and different competencies, depending on their role in the library, right? And all this must then be supported by on-the-job training and continuous professional development. So the question then, I'm sure you will ask, is how do we do all this, right? So we go back to the Singapore experience again, and then let's see how they do it there, because we take in graduates from any field and we move them on from there. Okay, this is just another chart reflecting the same thing. Okay, so NLB understanding that developing their staff, especially now that they've put in place the master plan to take their libraries to the future for 2025, have understood that it is only the staff that is going to help them achieve that vision and mission that they have set out for the organization itself. So early this year, they have set up the Center for Professional Development, right, to get their staff future ready to deliver their master plan of 2025. Inculcate with them the belief that it is only continuous professional learning and development that will help them grow in their careers as well. So starting off with the Center of Professional Development, they have now updated their competency framework, right? They have re-looked at what they had previously, put in the 21st century skills that they need, and redesigned that competency framework that they have. And they are in the process now of developing the learning roadmaps for the staff. Okay, so that is done at a higher level, at an organizational level. At the public library level, we have taken training down a different path. We believe that if our librarians are to go out there and run creative programs and innovative programs and put this creative mindset in our community, then our training must do the same. We cannot go there and we cannot lecture them and tell them you must do this and you must do that. So it has become a very engaged form of training that we run in our libraries. The Battle of the Book Lovers is one such program that we ran, and this was really to get our librarians to deepen their knowledge of children's literature. So as I said earlier, our libraries are divided into 5 regions. So what we did was we formed teams from each of the 5 regions, 2 teams from each of the 5 regions, so there were 10 teams. And we also believe that the staff in the HQ must also understand the product that we are out there to go and sell and to our users. So there was a HQ team as well. And they went through quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals it was like a competition among them. And they really enjoyed themselves. And this was actually designed on a public program that runs Kids Lit Quiz. I don't know whether you heard that. It's run out of New Zealand. So we develop our staff training based on that. We also have children's literature courses where again we partner with our institutes in Singapore, academic institutes that teach children's literature to teachers, and they come in and run customized courses for our librarians. And then of course we do basic storytelling courses and all the others that they need. For other courses where we develop soft skills like volunteer management, partnership building, we usually find an external vendor and we sit down with them and we customize their course so that it's contextualized for libraries. So we don't usually send them out to do generic courses. We want the examples that they use and the application of those learnings to fall back into our libraries. So that's what we do. We send them monthly newsletters. Every month, the public libraries have a professional sharing session where the librarians come together and they share information. It is in the same belief that outside there, there's co-creation and collaborative learning, and we believe the librarians internally must also do that. And once they understand that concept, they can then go out and facilitate such discussions outside. So we have a professional sharing session each month. It comes by themes, and a week after that professional sharing, we send out this newsletter called Blast. It is usually on the same theme that the professional sharing has been done, and there are books recommendations, audio, video, and also journal articles, and some reflective questions that they can ask themselves and have discussions at the branch level and the ground level. We also have developed learning circles within our librarians, just like we do reading clubs, right? For our public, we are now transferring that same thing for our librarians as well. So they have just started learning circles to share knowledge and update themselves on the latest trends and happenings. We use ambassadors. These are our staffs, because we believe that there must always be some champions within us that can drive the change. It is hard to be at management level and say, look, this is where we have to go. We need to find people on the ground who believe in our vision and the mission of the librarians, and then go out and work in smaller groups. So we actually have ambassadors and champions of change. And then we support them with handbooks that go on children's services and new libraries and guide to management. And so these are just a summary of some of the things that we do in the National Library. So it is sending them to conferences, having overall organizational master plan and learning roadmap, individual learning plans for individuals, and then, of course, at the end, supplemented by all these other things that we do. And these are some of the feedback from our librarians. They find it very enlightening. They feel there's always an awareness of what is happening out there, the new ideas. They've learned a lot about data analytics. So these are words from our staff. So at the end, to summarize, it is really understanding the trends and the best practices from libraries, then looking at yourselves, finding out where the gaps and your strengths are, and then developing the skills that you finally need to deliver the services that your community wants, and you then deliver on your own mission of going out there and enriching and empowering your users and changing their lives, right? And as I always tell my staff when I was at the National Library, change is going to happen, regardless of whether you want it or you don't. And the libraries are going to change, regardless of whether you come along with us or you don't. But we will provide you the competencies, the training, and the capacity building. And it is up to us as librarians to want to go out there and learn and change and then fulfill our mission as librarians. Thank you.
شكرا للسيدة مارغيت. راح نفتح النقاش بس بنطلب من زملائنا انهم يحددوا السؤال اذا كان موجه لشخص معين. راح نبلش اذا كان في مجال من مره. تفضل دكتور.
Dr. Ribhi Alayyan from the University of Jordan, and I am also the president of the Jordan Library Association. You are welcome to Jordan, and thank you very much for your successful presentation. I want to talk to Mary first. I want to give you a very historical piece of information. We started teaching library and information science at the university level in Jordan in 1977. And the first university teacher to teach us and me and Dr. Najib was from Denmark. He was Mr. Ian Hans Slimming. So we started teaching library and information science in Jordan by a university teacher from Denmark. Thank you very much for that. My question is for both of you. By the way, your country is similar in population. We started teaching library science very, very late in Jordan. What about teaching library and information science in your country? And thank you very much again.
كمان أسئلة من هذه المجموعة هون سمعتوا؟ مين بحب؟ تفضل أحمد.
أحمد مراعبة، مكتبة بلدية قلقيلية العامة، فلسطين، عضو بالشبكة الدولية لقادة المكتبات المبدعين الشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا. عندي أو بالبداية أود أن أتقدم بجزيل الشكر والعرفان لمؤسسة عبد الحميد شومان على دعمها المتواصل للمكتبات الفلسطينية، سواء بتزويد المكتبات بمصادر المعلومات المختلفة أو من خلال التأهيل والتدريب. سؤالي للسيدة ماري بخصوص الشركاء. هناك كثير من الشركاء يضعون شروطاً في لاكتساب بعض الإنجازات الخاصة بالخدمات المقدمة. هل هناك شروط أو عروض تقدم للشركاء من أجل الشراكات؟ هذا من جانب. السؤال الآخر، هل الخدمات المقدمة في مكتباتكم مجاناً؟ وهل الميزانيات المقدمة للمكتبات كافية أم تحتاجون إلى تعديل في الميزانيات؟ وما مدى وجود أقسام مثل المسرح والموسيقى في دعم الكتاب؟ هذا السؤال للسيدة ماري. السؤال للآنسة أمرجيت، تحدثت عن التغيير ومدى أهميته في تطوير الخدمات، ولكن في كل مجتمع نواجه مقاومة لهذا التغيير. هل واجهتكم مقاومة في بعض التغييرات الحاصلة وكيف تعاملتم معها؟ وشكرا.
شكرا. إذا في مجال بدنا كمان سؤال، إذا في تفضل دكتور. تفضل دكتور.
شكرا. نجيب شربجي. سؤال بس سريع بالإنجليزي أو بالعربي. The word customer has been repeated a number of times, and in Arabic, of course, we have different words: customer, client, or the Arabic of that. Now, we understand or we see public libraries as public domain. They are not really for sale, they are not for profit making, they are for building capacity, they are this and that. Now, the use of the word customer, I feel that it is actually implying that you have to pay, that you are a client who is actually waiting for something to get a reward. So I just want to listen to some of the comments. How do you see in both cases, Singapore and Denmark, how do you see people coming to the library? Are they clients? Are they partners? Are they customers? Are they clientele? What are they actually? And then based on that, what is the vision? What is the strategy to deal with this community of people as customers or as clients or as users or potential user or whatever? Thank you.
شكرا. إذا في مجموعة أسئلة خلينا نجاوب الأسئلة وبعدين نرجع للبقية. You can start answering questions.
Great questions. Thank you. I'll try to approach all three of them. The teaching. I think what we see in Denmark is what you often see in many countries, that the training of librarians, the library schools, are often a little bit behind the actual needs out there. So we've been engaging in a quite substantial collaboration with the schools in terms of developing courses, and we have a lot of students that come to Aarhus and that we help train. So it's a way of, because for us the education right now doesn't necessarily support going out in the field and having half a year out there. So we are trying to support that so that the students can come out and be part of what a library is today, and go back with that knowledge. So, and we're in constant. We have postdocs as part of our cooperation as well from the universities, etc. So we try to engage in the constant communication with the education of librarians.
Do you have masters and PhD programs?
Yes, we do. There are masters and PhD programs in the school, and right now we don't have a PhD in our library, but it's something that we're talking to the school about. So we try to constantly push the education because it needs push, and fortunately they are opening up towards combining the librarian courses with other courses in university on a university level, so you can have combinations. And for us to support different types of education as staff in our libraries is also a way of saying we need many different competences. It is not enough what you've been doing so far. So I think it's a constant dialogue that's needed there. The question down here about the conditions for partners, that's a very important question. And actually it's a little bit about what you're asking over here as well. The libraries, public libraries in Denmark are free for everyone. In our legislation it says free and equal access to knowledge. That is our foundation. So everything that happens in the library, including what the partners do, needs to be non-commercial. We can partner up with commercial companies, but then what they're doing there needs to not be advertising for them, but needs to be about the service for the users. So that's one of the conditions that we do. And then we invented a lot of reasons, reasons to say no. So who would we say no to? And the commercial aspect could be one of them. Also, as I tried to show you, we had these areas of partnerships where we say these are the areas that we want to focus on. So we choose partners within these areas of topics. Otherwise, we could have everyone, basically. And we demand that the partners are capable of being part of an open public domain that we are. And so we train them and we talk to them about how we approach users and how you use the spaces. So we have a lot of interactions with our partners. Partnerships are not a way of saving money or saving time. Partnerships are a way of enhancing competences and making services better. Don't think that just because we have 60% of our programs done with partners that we save time on it. No, we don't. But we give better services and we get more competences in. So you also asked about the services. They're all free. Sometimes you have to pay a very tiny amount of money to, for instance, go into a concert, if we have paid a lot of money to bring these people there. But otherwise, all the other services everything is free. And it's part of the legislation. We do a lot of theater, music, different kind of performances as part of what we do to support the broad cultural aspect. It's also part of the legislation that libraries need to be about enlightenment, quality, and cultural activity. So cultural activity are many things, and we need to support it all. And we are very focused on not being in competition with, for instance, the theater in the city or the concert hall in the city. So we do different types all the time. It's the variety that's important for us. And finally, about your question about the word, what word we use. For us, we call everybody that comes into our libraries users. Not clients, not customers, but users. Staff are users too. partners are users too, but they're just different users. So there are users of services and spaces. But we're actually discussing that term because as we want to the users to take control of the spaces and actually perform new services themselves, that word maybe needs to change into something else, but we haven't found a good word for that. But we don't want the commercial aspect of it. That's not interesting.
Can start.
Okay, in Singapore we have, it's a small country, so the pool of librarians is very small. There is no institution that offers education in library science. We did have our institution called the Nanyang Technological University, which offered a master's program in library science, but that only lasted for a short while because the intake was too low for them to sustain the program. So what now we do mainly is to send our librarians overseas to get either through a sponsorship program that the National Library offers, or sometimes they go out and they pay on their own, and the National Library gives them a year's no-pay leave to go out and do the program. So that's why in Singapore, librarians are recruited from any field as long as they have a graduate degree. And over time, they either get sponsorship or they go out and do it themselves. But for it to work in Singapore, we need to have a very strong and robust on-the-job training program. And therefore, we have all those things running internally within the library. We have handbooks and guidebooks and e-learning, as well as capacity building programs that are run internally by us. And we feel that this will be strengthened once the Center of Professional Development takes off. They have only been in existence for, I think, 4 to 5 months now. So I think as they go out there and build their own partnerships in training staff, more courses for staff will come. So nothing internally run by our organization. I think in terms of opposition to change and learning new skills, that is a very, very good question, because many a time staff are very comfortable doing what they have been doing, and they feel they are good at it, and they are not very open to change. So really, the change management process that I talked about is very key. Usually, the changing mindset and influencing them or convincing them of the change has to start way before the change actually takes place. For example, in the Singapore libraries, when we removed the counters, we started that change of mindset about a year before. Every time we have meetings, every time we have sessions with the staff, we will tell them, this change is coming. Be prepared for it. We will help you, we will train you, we will guide you. But mentally, you have to be prepared for the change. So when we did the master plan for 2025, that change, we got it approved only in late 2015, early 2016. But that change management started about a year and a half ago. We told them it is an empty page. We are going to make the change. You come with us and help us design that change and be part of it. So involving staff in that change is an important way to also get their buy-in. So there are methods and processes that you can use to actually convince staff to come along with you. The other thing I think to get everybody on board is that when you do training, it has to cut across everyone in the organization. You cannot just take one group and try to train them and build their competencies and hope that they can go back and then it filters down. It doesn't work. There's a training program that is running out of India that is aimed at training library leaders. It's a very successful program. They have seen many good results coming out of it. But if you talk to these leaders that are being trained, they say when they go back to their libraries and try to introduce these things, introduce partnerships, volunteers, their staff are so resistant, and they spend a lot of energy trying to, convince their staff that this is the way to go. Because the staff cannot see this vision, staff do not understand why this change is coming to them. So it is important that you train everybody in the organization to speak the same language. And that's the experience of Singapore when we transformed in 1996. Our CEO made sure everyone every staff went for training. Some trainings cut across everyone, some were specific to the roles you held. So those are the things that you can do to make sure that the staff open up to the change. There will always be a few that resist the change, and therefore it's important to have the champions out there to help you. I just touch one thing on partnerships, so I know Marie has said it. You must also understand that not all partnerships will be successful, and therefore when you go into a partnership, do be clear about what are the outcomes that you expect, so that if you have to terminate that partnership, it's very clear that the deliverables have not been met. And in the Singapore National Library, we have come across 2 or 3 instances where we had to terminate the partnership because it was not giving us the deliverables and the services that we hoped that partnership will bring about. In terms of what we call our customers, we use customers and users interchangeably, but our services are all free. We do not charge for attending programs. We do not charge for coming to use the library. There's only a small charge that we have for making reservations on our books. And that was to address a problem that we had many, many years ago about people reserving books but not picking them up. So we imposed a small charge to address that huge problem that we had. So interchangeably, but if I would go more with users than customers. Okay. Is that all? I think I answered them.
Finished?
Yeah.
زملاء وزميلنا نعتذر عن قبول أسئلة ضيق الوقت. نشكر محاضرتين اليوم السيدة ماري والسيدة مارغيت، وشكرا لحضوركم، شكرا لاستماعكم معنا. أخ سيد صدام إذا تحب تختم.
حضورنا الكرام، نشكر لكم حضوركم، متابعتكم ومداخلاتكم القيمة، ونشكر مجددا ضيوفنا الأشقاء العرب على الاهتمام بالحضور والمشاركة بهذه الندوة التي نتمنى أن تكون استمرارية لطريق التغيير الذي بدأناه في العام الماضي، وبداية لنقلة نوعية في المكتبات التي انضمت لندوتنا لأول مرة هذا العام. كما نشكر محاضرينا على مشاركتنا الخبرة، الرؤية والممارسات الفضلة في المكتبات التي قطعت شوطا كبيرا في التغيير، وندعوكم لاستلام الدروع كهدية رمزية تعبر عن امتناننا لكم. لذلك أرجو من الرئيسة التنفيذية فالنتينا قسيسية التفضل لتسليم الدروع. محاضرين السيد راميرو سالازار مدير مكتبة سان أنطونيو العامة، السيدة ماري أوسترغارد الرئيسة التنفيذية مكتبات آرهوس العامة، الآنسة أمار جيل الخبيرة والمستشارة في تخطيط وتطوير المكتبات العامة. الحضور الكرام، أجدد شكري لكم وأدعوكم لاستلام شهادات حضور الندوة، ومن ثم التفضل لتناول طعام الغداء في نادي الملك حسين الواقع على بعد 50 متر باتجاه الدوار الأول مقابل مبنى المؤسسة، وعلى أمل اللقاء بكم في العام القادم إن شاء الله. رفقتكم السلامة.